Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh, and I got with me
Patty SGB.
SGB, and we are off. So we have flight for the Songbird Network has officially launched, but we're going to run through the whole blog in this live stream, and then we'll take some questions at the end. And I know there's going to be questions, but hopefully many of them will be answered when we run through the blog here and kind of break it down. But just to quick overview, we're in observation mode till September 27th. So what does that mean, Patty?
Yeah, so I think the best way for us to do this is going to be to just go through the blog one by one and kind of explain each point, when you're supposed to get your Songbird tokens, what needs to take place, and everything like that. So just hang tight with us here.
And this is just exciting. I mean, finally,
I'm very excited.
After all this time, I mean, for us that we've been putting, videos and content and researching and putting knowledge, it's exciting for us. It's exciting for us receiving tokens and all of you, the viewers as well, and part of the community. But I think it's even more exciting, I think, for some of the developers like, the Flare Finances, the Trustline, the FTSOs, the signal providers, the Gala Games, and all of those that are building on these networks, waiting for the network to launch, to when they can launch their applications. And they seem very excited. So I think it's a good thing for the community. And remember, this is the Canary Network. So let's run through this, Patty, and break it down for everybody.
Absolutely. So as of now, Songbird has now launched, and the Songbird token has been distributed to all addresses. There's a very specific reason you can't see it right now, which we'll get into as they describe it in the blog. But going from there, it's going to be in observation mode for now. And this is something that's a soft launch. So, it's going to have stages to it to make sure nothing crashes or there's no bugs or anything like that, especially with this being a Canary network. That's pretty important. I think we've seen with some of the other blockchains that have had issues this year or had to halt that, this probably isn't the worst way to go. Better safe than sorry, I'd say, before people start putting money on it, even if it is a Canary network. So during this time period of observation mode, the FTSO contracts are going to get deployed and the FTSO system will commence. This will be where people like, I see FTSO EU in the chat, and FTSO AU or Scandi nodes or somebody like that can start setting up their, signal providers and interacting with these contracts. So during this period of observation mode, the network may be rolled back and or redeployed from Genesis. So with that, people can get whitelisted if you're running a node. So this is something I will probably be looking into. And you'll be able to peer into the network and make calls on it and things like that and run the software. And then also, this is highly, highly important. So the Flare Limited team reserves the right to roll back and or take down the network and restart from Genesis. Exchanges, we strongly advise not making Songbird token available for sale or purchase during this time. So please listen to this right now. If you go and buy Songbird tokens on the open market for somebody during this period that potentially is going to last until the 27th of September at 1400 GMT time, that means if something breaks in the network and they decide to roll it back, your tokens will no longer be yours and they will go back to the person that originally had them based on how the network's supposed to start. So just know that if you go and buy tokens before it goes out, you're taking the risk that the network gets rolled back and you lose those tokens. So you would have lost that money.
This is important because some exchanges might offer trading in between this period. They might, because they might do it off chain. But I would be very careful of that. And we might see a price of Songbird from now till the 27th. But I think we need to proceed with a lot of caution here because, like Patty said, things could get rolled back. And they reserve the right till the 27th to roll back. So they're telling you this right now. So we know, be careful with that. And your tokens aren't going to show up. Like, you're not going to see them quite yet. So just understand that for the meantime.
Yeah, and it won't be very long till you will see them. And somebody even commented, you can check your address in XRP scan. And since they're not a wallet, they can see it directly on the blockchain. But with this, we're going to talk about State Connector test mode now. So the State Connector system is what allows the F-Asset system to function because it allows Flare Network or Songbird Network to talk to other blockchains that is connected through that system. And so once it progresses past the observation mode, which they are planning for the 27th of September, I believe that's a Monday, Flare will not be able to unilaterally roll back or restart the network. During the state connector testing mode, nodes are still required to be whitelisted as per the form above. Also, the state connector will not immediately be deployed post the 27th of September. It will first undergo further testing on Costin, and then it will be enabled for testing on Songbird. So they'll go through the testing of the state connector system and the incentives, and this could lead to changes in the state connector system and the way in which validator power is planned to be apportioned to validators that win state connector proofs. And then you can go to their docs page and read more information about that if you haven't seen it before. Additionally, during this period, we may or may not deploy the F asset contracts to start testing. And then after that, they will get into unrestricted mode. So once the state connector system and related validator selection algorithm has been fully tested, the necessity to whitelist nodes will be removed. So this is when it's going to be fully decentralized and all that stuff. So Songbird will then operate at the behest of the validators and previously specified token derived governance functions. So that's like you can vote for stuff with the Songbird token, or, when Flare comes out, voting with the Spark token. And he goes the latter of which, so the governance will be mediated through the Flare Foundation. That stuff is outlined in the white paper, how all that works. And then testing of F asset contracts, if already started, will continue. If not, it will start during this period and will, when deemed robust, become a core protocol of Songbird. This means there may be halts and or changes to the F asset system during this testing period. Also, just to note here, we know there's no rewards or anything if you mint S assets on Songbird, and also XFi is not going to support S assets until Flare Network actually launches. So, there's no rush to mint any S assets through I guess they're going to call it the F asset system on Songbird. But on Songbird, there's no need, you don't have to mint F assets right out the gate, especially if they're going to be rolling it back. If you want to do a couple for testing, absolutely. I'm just saying, don't feel like you need to rush to mint those. And then additionally, after sufficient testing, Flare will be launched and Songbird will become the testing ground for governance-based changes to Flare. Songbird may diverge from this role at its own will through Songbird token governance. So this is the part where Songbird is its own independent network. It can make its own decisions and things like that. Flare governance has the ability to deploy stuff on Songbird to test it before it comes to Flare. So that's kind of the relationship there.
So now, do you think between this period of restricted mode and between state connector mode and unrestricted mode, we could see XFi platform for Flare Finance deployed, because it doesn't use the F asset system and wouldn't use the state connector system during that period? So we could see XFi deployed after September 27th. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it won't be till after December or September 27th.
September 27th. So that's kind of the date we kind of got to look for. It's about 2 weeks. So we're in observation mode till then. But at least now, that what's nice about this is they're laying out exactly the phases that we should expect. There's not as too many, there's some unknowns in there, but there's a lot of knowns. What do we know that's happening? This is when you'll be able to use your tokens after the 27th. This is when the real trading will begin. This is when you'll see the XFi. This is when the F asset system testing will begin. So knowing that these phases are coming, I think is helpful to many who, it was up in the air. When is this thing launch, right? And now we have that. So this should bring comfort to many of you who are waiting, especially our favorite commenter, Corey. So you should be happy there, Corey.
That's hilarious. So this is the part that'll explain about your tokens. So you will be able to access the network once a public RPC is set up. This is kind of similar to an API. It's something that allows you to connect to the network and get the data and read it. So Flare will not run a public RPC node. We expect several external parties to set up public RPCs in the coming days. So, that could mean enough people put them up tonight if, it's nighttime for you, or I guess some people are probably morning already. Also, this could mean maybe we see it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, when you can start seeing them in your actual wallets. So one of the things for anybody that's used MetaMask, they have the ability to add custom blockchains on there. And there's this thing called a RPC URL that is used to connect to the blockchain so the wallet can read it and see, what tokens are there and all that stuff. So these nodes need to be up so that the wallets can connect to them and read what's on the blockchain and then display it back to you. So your tokens are with your, the address that you claimed with, and it will be in the wallet. Once these RPC nodes are up, I'm sure we'll get an additional announcement about that, or people will just start seeing them in their wallet and then everybody will know.
Now, this is different than the exchanges. So if you claimed through an exchange, some people might see them in their exchange wallet. And that's, once again, up to the exchange, who will probably run their own node on the Songbird network, to distribute then out. Now, they're probably not going to, you're not going to be able to take it off that exchange, but some, just be aware, I have a feeling, knowing these exchanges that like to jump the gun, they might offer trading just on their own platform, but might not let you send off. That's a little speculation here, but, we'll cover this in the days ahead as, the exchanges and the ecosystem and the network and market participants all come together here. But just keep that in mind. Some exchanges might, release right out to you, some might not. And remember, if you claim through an exchange, you're now at the will of that exchange.
Yep. So this last part, which that was pretty much everything you guys need to know about the launch. This is just cool because they're going to be releasing detailed information and technical documents regarding setting up a data provider, so we can kind of see what Flare says about setting one of those up. I don't know if that'll tell us or anything, or if it's all going to be technical jargon. And then also we'll talk about participating in the FTSO system. So that would be people like us that, are Songbird token holders. And all of that stuff will be available in the coming days after the deployment of the FTSO contracts. So I'm expecting we see some of that stuff maybe this weekend or, Monday or something like that. So further documents on the State Connector and F asset systems will become available at launch of those systems on Songbird. So that's really cool. Maybe we'll be learning some more, especially since Hugo has said, and quote here, meaningful optimizations have been made to the Flare network since they originally started it. And that's one of the things that prompted Songbird Network to be launched is, during this path of creating the blockchain, they realized there was some stuff they could do better. It was going to take them longer, and they felt like it was worth it. And they also felt like they needed to test those things on a real live network with real live value that will operate different in a network where people can get unlimited tokens at will, because that's not realistic behavior, as opposed to when you have something that's scarce or a limited amount. You can say whatever about scarcity, but it'll have a limited amount of tokens. Yeah. So different behavior happens when it's actual money at stake than when people are playing a fake game basically to test the system. So that's why we've gotten into this, and that's where we're at now. The last part, just note of caution. I know it's really exciting, but it's just good to remind everybody, Songbird is being established as the Canary network. All the systems being deployed on Songbird are new and are being deployed to Songbird for testing so as to achieve greater robustness for the launch of Flare. This means that there may be meaningful bugs and redeploys in the FTSO, State Connector, and F asset protocols. The network itself may be rolled back or restarted as per the information above, which we know is only for that initial period, which is the observation period. And then the risk of owning Songbird and participation in the protocols of the network is potentially higher than that of long-established blockchains. So just, when we get into this, keep all that in mind. It is a Canary network, and you'll have to make your own decisions on risk in regards to that.
And they're using, the State Connector system and the F asset system are cutting edge new technologies built on a brand new consensus, which is blazingly fast. It's going to run multiple thousands of transactions per second and connect to other networks, literally have validators on those networks signaling back data. And that's part of the State Connector system. So this is all new, and it integrates with other blockchains. Now, those other blockchains don't have to do anything. So Litecoin doesn't need to give approval. Stellar and Jed don't need to give approval to connect. But the Flare State Connector system needs to integrate with those and signal all that data back. So that's that process there of that State Connector system, which rolls into the whole F assets. So you need that State Connector system to move these F assets onto the Flare network and mint them, or onto Songbird, because it needs to be able to connect and relay all that data. So when there's a redemption or a minting, it has to connect. This isn't just trusting one entity. This is a trustless system. So the cutting edge technologies here, there's a potential, they're warning us that there could be some bugs. So like what Patty says, when it comes to the testing component of minting F assets, there's no reason to feel a rush to mint a lot of value. Like, you're not going to get rewards for it or anything here. You're not going to be able to use it on XFi. So I think it's more of just something to maybe test and get used to how to do it through your Bifrost, through your Decent, or your MetaMask. But Patty, before we roll into other things, I have a question that I feel like is going to come out a lot. Well, what happens if I had mine on Ledger and I had it on Nano Ledger? Am I going to be able to use that with with Songbird?
Tom
T
in the Telegram said that there's a Songbird application ready and should be out in a few days.
Now,
so this is going to be before we actually ever need to move any assets. So basically, if you have a Ledger Nano, you have XRP there. Excuse me, you had to install the XRP application to be able to use XRP with that Ledger Nano. Same thing with Songbird. Your tokens are under your wallet address if you use an Ethereum address from your Ledger Nano. So they're delivered there. It's just they need to release the Songbird application, and then you'll be able to see and access your tokens within your account. This seems like this is going to come out way before we even get past observation mode. So I just say be patient. And it seems like it's coming from everything I can tell.
Will you be able to interact with the FTSOs and use the system with just that app? I don't believe so. I think you'll have to move to a
No, you're going to need to use probably Decent, MetaMask,
so you're going to have to move your tokens.
Yeah.
So remember that when you have a Flare account, once you get it in that Flare app that's created then for Ledger, or you have it in Bifrost or Decent, your account exists on Songbird. That's where your tokens are. They're not in that little hardware device. That's just storing your seed phrase. Your assets always remain on the blockchain. That just gives you access. So that wallet just gives you access to those assets. Those assets always remain on the blockchain. They don't just come off and then live in this little hardware device. So just want everyone to keep that in mind. That just keeps your seed phrase and your authentication for moving those assets. So there's different ways that you could utilize these networks, and there's going to be different wallets. So if you want to stick with using Ledger, you can connect that to MetaMask. Is that correct, Patty?
Yeah, you can connect it to MetaMask. The thing is, every time you want to do a transaction with those tokens on Ledger, you're going to have the device with you or plugged in or connected via Bluetooth if you have the X. So, I mean, if you're cool with doing that, you can certainly connect your MetaMask or your Ledger to MetaMask and do stuff from your Ledger device. It's just not going to be as seamless and easy as using something like Bifrost or Decent. Also, the Ledger is going to be, I would say, much less like portable, or, as far as if you go out and you need to have access to your funds, like if it's on your Ledger and you're participating in DeFi, that's something extra you need to keep track of. So
yeah, just keep that in mind. And this is why we have a Canary network, to test this out with small amounts of value. And if you're, it's possible that Songbird comes out at a very low price. You might only have the Songbirds worth $50 or $75 or $100. It might not be worth that much. So if you want to purchase more, you're welcome to. And this is not financial advice. And those who weren't able to participate, say in the airdrop, say they didn't get an XRP by December 12th, that doesn't mean you're excluded from this. You're allowed to purchase $20 of Songbird once the trading begins after the 27th, and you can participate. You don't need a lot of value to test out the network and participate just because you weren't in the airdrop. So I just want everyone to know, everyone has free access here. Some people will get free tokens because they had XRP. Some people will. And I think we need to continue as a community, though. This is important, pressuring the exchanges that don't distribute right away. So now we have a 2-week period here where we could pressure these exchanges, hey, release our tokens. You're getting them. It's not a matter of you supporting or not. You're getting the Songbird tokens, or you already got them. Now it's a matter of distributing them to us. And for them to do that, would they need to run nodes now on Songbird?
Patty? Sorry, who needs to run nodes on Songbird?
For the exchanges.
No, they don't have to. No, there just needs to be sufficient amount of RPC nodes, up and running that allows the wallets to connect in and read the blockchain.
Okay, so we're going to get updates over the next week or two. Today is the first night that we just got this blog. So they also said on here they're going to release more information on the F asset system and these testing phases. And I'm sure we'll get some of the bigger exchanges like Bitstamp. Now, looks like they're going to support trading. So I think that's great for US residents where you're looking for an exchange. They have a bit license. So if you did need to access somewhere, I believe Bitstamp's in all 50 states. So that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
We got any questions, Patty?
There was a good question from earlier. I forget. Let me see who it was. It was about the claim amount and what happens to some unclaimed stuff. I want to see.
Good question, because we don't know
Dan
the
here.
actual.
Yeah, so we actually don't know the final claim amount. Hopefully that's something we can hear about soon. And he goes, what happens to Spark and Songbird that goes unclaimed? Spark that goes unclaimed goes to the general F asset pool. And then Songbird that goes unclaimed is going to go to the Flare Foundation. And the reason I say the Songbird tokens that go unclaimed will go there, it's because there's no asset reward pools of Songbird for people minting F assets onto the Songbird network. So those pools actually went to the foundation instead. And I assume that that's where the Unclaimed is going to go as well.
Yeah, you think of those little rewards pools on the Flare network are like escrows. Think of them algorithmically distributing tokens out of an escrow to reward the minting of F assets. That's how you have to think of those. So it's better than burning, in my opinion, because burning, you're just destroying the value. Now you're transferring that value to those who bring value onto the network. And I think that's a better model than just this whole everything's about burning, which could have a long-term effect on the scarcity. But at the same time, I like the idea of rewarding because you're transferring value now to the good participants in the network and not giving it to those who are just not participating in the network. And I think that's important, and I think it's about the whole design of Flare and how the mechanism design is built. And it's something that is a little new to many people when you're looking at different blockchains, especially if you're coming just from Bitcoin and XRP and Ethereum. You know, we've seen staking, how staking affects. It locks up and creates scarcity, but it gives rewards to those people participating. Flare doesn't have staking. It has something better. It has the F asset system and the FTSO system. So the inflation comes from the signal providers and the FTSO. That's where the rewards are distributed. On Flare, the F asset system distributes the other 20 to 30 billion of the tokens. So half of it's been airdropped to people. The other half is going to get distributed through minting F assets. So you have to look at that as a distribution mechanism of the token still, because it's part of the total supply, where the FTSO is the inflation mechanism and the reward mechanism for just participating in the Oracle system. So those are two separate types of rewards. One, I think the FS system's kind of like rewards, but it's distributing out the circulation of the supply of that total 100 billion.
Yeah. So the next thing, Mickey, there was one other one, and just to make it clear what it means if the network is restarted or rolled back. Let's say you start with 100 Songbird tokens and you do a bunch of stuff and you end up with 150 Songbird tokens. Well, if they roll it back, then you're going to go back to what you originally started with. And everything you did is going to be it's gone. It doesn't matter. So that's what that means. So I say, that's what we're saying. If you go and buy, if some exchange lists Songbird during this period and you go and buy it and then they roll back the network because something happened, then you're going to lose those tokens you bought and you're going to be out of that money. So just take that into account. I mean, maybe it happens that an exchange lists Songbird and the price goes extremely low and you decide to buy it because it's so low and you'll take the risk you could lose your money. But that's the only reason I would see why you would want to do that. And, you would have to determine that price on your own. Now, with these exchanges, like Mickey said, we have, a time period before you can even do anything to earn rewards and participate in XFi or the FTSO. You have a time period now, I think it's 11 days, 16th to the 27th, where we can start hearing about exchanges that are going to support. We can also, go on social media. People can email them, reach out to their support staff and ask if you want to. I have claims coming. I had a little bit claimed at Coinbase and Bitstamp, so I'll definitely be asking them. And I know a lot of people ask other people on Twitter all the time. I see people tagging exchanges all the time. So hopefully with the network out, even if they don't distribute it for, let's say, the system's running and we're using it and you're in XFi for a week. And if they haven't, they could still distribute it. They can distribute it anytime. They're just going to have the tokens. They could do it in a year from now if they wanted to. So that's just kind of how it works. It's not like there's some time period they have to do it in. So
Yeah,
that's not how the Spark one works either. Just wanted to throw that out. Yeah, it's just for Songbird.
Yeah, this is just for Songbird. It's unlikely that any exchanges will hold them hostage. It's probably more a matter of, does this exchange want to list this token now? Because it doesn't really benefit them too much just to distribute out a random token to take it off that platform. Many of them are probably going to list, which I think is a good thing, for we're such a big community, one of the biggest communities on all crypto. So that has an impact on these exchanges. And if we could use that influence there as a community to push them to list, I mean, it's better, just the more listings we have, the better. But I still think the most of the activity is going to take place on the Songbird networks and the Flare networks, and less focus will be on these exchanges. But they are important because they'll offer services. They'll offer their own signal providers. They'll offer staking for their own customers. Now, you don't have to use those. The ability is to actually interact with the networks. And we have to remember, these are networks. They're blockchains. They have systems. They have different modules. Now we have smart contracts and all this, complexities added. It's more than just a token trading on an exchange. And I think we have to understand that as an asset class. This is a different asset class. I know, the SEC and Gensler can make everything seem like it's all about the token and just security. But the reality is these are networks, and there's activity happening, and there's applications being built. And what does that mean for the token? Utility. So utility is here. Delegating to a signal provider for the FTSO is utility of that token. That's the utility. So we're getting close here to utility having an impact. Staking in a network is utility. Governance voting is a utility of that token. So we're getting to this point where utility is here. Question is, are you going to participate in that utility or not? Nobody's forcing you to. There's no force here. You could just sit there and hold Spark, but you're not going to get any of the rewards. You're not going to get any part of the inflation. So we just want to understand that the market back in 2017, 2018, we didn't have this. We didn't have this ability to participate in network rewards. And then you have the second level is like DeFi. Now you can take those tokens and then use that value. You could finally use XRP in a DeFi ecosystem, earn rewards for just bringing it there, and use that value in DeFi. So I think that's going to help with XRP's utility, because now it's going to get a huge boost into actual usage by the retail investors and the community and enterprises too. There's nothing stopping institutions or enterprises from building on Flare Network and using FXRP or any of these F assets. It gives Doge utility now. Doge can now, when Flare launches, it will have utility on the Flare Network, and that's just like a fact. So we're getting to the point here where utility is coming into play. Now, I don't know if we're in that utility so-called run yet, but we're getting there. So understanding that this is happening while all this SEC regulations and all this other negative stuff happens, there are good things happening too.
Yeah, and Mickey, I just want to add to, what you're talking about with participating. The beauty of Songbird is now before Flare comes out, you can actually sit here and see how the code runs, how the network performs, how safe you actually think your assets are. Like, you don't have to get in on Songbird. You can use this as a time to get comfortable if you need to, and watch it and make an ultimate decision if you want to participate in the future. So I think that's pretty important. And I think it provides a lot of people with a nice opportunity that maybe are a little more hesitant on DeFi or don't feel like they can do it. We'll get to a point where people in the community are starting to become pretty solid at doing this stuff. And, we can continue to help each other. And I think it'll just get better from there. So I'm really excited about all this. If you guys join late, we go through the whole blog and explain everything that's going on with your tokens, when you should expect to see them, why you don't see them necessarily in your wallet right now. So definitely go back to the beginning and watch from there if you came in late. But Mickey, any last words before we wrap up?
Yeah, last words here are to understand that the network's going to be decentralized, Flare, and it's going to have a governance right out the gate. And this Canary network really helps establish all that. So this whole testing phases that we're going through now are going to make the Flare launch so much better and smoother and more powerful and impactful on the market and the industry, in a couple months when Flare does launch. So understanding that the network will have decentralization of the actual consensus, decentralization of the governance, and then distribution of the token far and wide, which is usually the hardest thing to do. And David Schwartz has said this. Distributing the token is one of the hardest things to do. And Flare's been able to bootstrap off a community for half of the distribution, and the other half's going to go to those who mint F assets. And I think that's a powerful, to have a combination of all those 3, 4, 5 different things together is very rare for a network. So I think we have something handed to us on a silver platter here. We got keys to the kingdom and governance with the decentralized network for our community. So now it's up to us to make the best of it. And it's up to Flare Limited team to provide the technology and the infrastructure there for us to then utilize that. And they have come through. It's, yes, we're a couple of months late, but you know what? We're here, and I'd rather have everything secure and safe and done the right way than been rushed. And I like this idea of the Canary Network. We could compare this, and I know many of you have commented before, like Kusama, and it is, in a way. This method has been proven out already, so it has worked. But Flare and Songbird are different than Polkadot and Kusama in many ways, but the model has proven out to work very well with Kusama and Polkadot. So following this, I think, will be very helpful for Flare's success and all of us who are going to be Songbird holders and Spark holders in the near future here. But if you did miss the beginning, definitely check. Patty and I ran through the whole beginning of the video on what's going on with the tokens right now and the observation period.
Yeah, and my last thing, just because I saw a couple comments, is you're only going to be able to see your Songbird tokens if, you know, the wallet that you're using is going to be connected to the Songbird network. So that's something you need to check. If they're not, then you're just going to need to export that seed phrase to a wallet that will allow you to do that. So just keep that in mind. But this is really exciting. And I don't know, it just feels great, Mickey, after talking about this for so long. We're going to get to see it in action now. Even if it is a soft launch right here, it's up and running. So it's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. So this is great, and we're off to a good start. We got a layout of a plan. This is the observation mode. Wait till the 27th. Then you'll be able to see all your tokens and be able to utilize
Well, you'll
them.
be able to see them even sooner, but yeah,
yes,
we won't be able to use them till then.
Patience. Little more patience from everybody, all right?
Yeah.
We're just about there. And you know what? We're going to be covering this in the next week or two. So we'll be continuing providing updates, and we're going to ramp up the content now in the weeks to come as we move into like the harder launch of Songbird and into XFi, which if you didn't see, check out our earlier video from today. We went through the whole XFi platform and what you need to do to be prepared for using your value there and earning and learning to earn, because this really comes down to learning, and then you could earn. You're not going to be able to earn unless you learn how to earn. And that's the first step to do here. And this is a constant learning process, just being in crypto. And we're moving so fast. Everything's moving so fast. So you got to kind of keep up. And I know it's difficult. I know people work, you know, long hours sometimes, but you know, when you can, try to make time, to, you know, to watch videos, educate yourself, read the blog, so you're kept up on what's going on, because things are moving very rapidly.
Awesome. Well, Songbird's out. This is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP.
And I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we're out. See y'all.